guys are amazing. Lynn and I were working on our Russian, and one of these times when we come back, we'll have a few words to say.
Right now it's spasiba.
Spasiba. That's all we can say. But we just wanted to gather everybody because we think it's really important when we work with students and we work with different people in cities to do a closure and to really kind of review and understand what it is that we've done, because it may seem like it's very little or very much, but actually we've had quite a full week of events, and both of us have been really astounded at the amount of commitment and the amount of passion that you have shown throughout these days. It's really blown us away. So we really want to thank you for that. And we're going to talk about a variety of things where it's really important that you give us a lot of thoughts about what you have learned and what you've experienced in the past few days, so that we can make this a reflection and you can continue to take everything that you have been learning and that you've been gathering along with you as we continue. So we're going to begin by doing just a little recap of the week and what has happened, and then we'll start with that and just give an overview of what we've been doing.
So we have been looking at how we can put people in the central planning. That was the goal of our surveys. So even though you've been standing counting or registration of what are people doing, it's part of how we're going to make people visible in our cities. So you've been doing pedestrian counts, and we had a lot of people being out in the streets looking at how many pedestrians do we have in the streets in this area. And we're going to use that to compare it to other cities that we worked in. We have around 50 other cities around the world that we can use that data and compare it with those cities. We can also look at the distances on sidewalks. We can use it on how many people are doing jaywalking in the area, how many are walking on the sidewalk, how many are walking on the streets. So we'll use that data and play around with it, and exactly how the data will turn out, we don't know yet, because it will be different things every time. But your pedestrian counts will be fed into these models and systems that will be played around with, and hopefully you can be part of playing with it as well. But that's part. So that was the numbers of people using the streets in this area. Then we have looked at activity. What kind of activity do we see in this area? And you've been looking at behavior. So if that tells us something about the environment provided, being in Gorky Park today, being in this crazy circus of activities, that's a lot of activities provided there. In this area, we found, just looking very briefly at the results so far, it's a little bit of sitting, it's mostly standing, and it's waiting for public transportation. It's not so many activities we have registered. That means that what we provide in this area hasn't reached its potential. There could be many other activities maybe added. I think it's also, some of you have written some very nice comments about what you saw. We had some questions. How about the chess players? How do we register them? So you've been seeing, how about people painting? Is that an activity? So I think every city has other activities than other cities. For example, working in Istanbul, we added fishing and swimming because that was an urban activity. And I think we will find activities in this area as well that differ from the other cities. So we will use that statistics showing how the parks are used, showing how the public spaces are used, and compare it to comparable cities as well. And then we had some very committed and very, very passionate and soulful students, I think, that were giving an extra commitment to this workshop and this week. You've been looking at many different varieties of topics. You looked at lost opportunities in the area, for example. Are there areas that have no use today? Could it be something? What could it potentially be? Taking both registration and giving your thoughts on how it could be changed. Then we had somebody mapping barriers. How is it to move in this area? How difficult is it to be from one part to the other? How is it, if I'm in a wheelchair, can I move? What's my distance? If you look at the map, how far is it to walk in the map if I'm in Google Earth? Or how far is it actually to move when I'm on foot? And if I'm a handicapped person, if I have broken knee or I'm with a prone, difficult it is for us to move around. That tells us the everyday stories of the city. So both having these very measured things about numbers and counts, and then also to try to tell passionate, maybe sometimes a bit hurtful stories about what it is to be an everyday citizens in the city. And also capturing the joyful ones, trying to capture what is the best potentials of this area, what is the beauty, what can be built on. So we had somebody looking at courtyards. We think there's some beauty to the courtyards in this area, and we had a very, very passionate group looking at courtyard and capturing interesting aspects of things we didn't know at all about this area. So that group are feeding us with a lot of information that has been very, very useful. And we also had somebody looking. How many benches did you find? 4. Okay. So we've been looking at benches provided in this area and cafe seats. And I think you had a very nice quote. You said it's the same number of pairs in Moscow as it is, or in this area, as it is benches. So doing these exercises, there was many more exercises, but doing these exercises makes us being aware of the city in new ways. You're probably gonna, I hope, look at pedestrians maybe in a different way. We've been also measuring what kind of age do the people have, and people doing that were surprised that we thought it was a lot of youth, young people in this area, like teens, but they found there was a lot of people in the working age, from 15 and above was the large numbers. So doing these really intense exercises, the goal is to be at the city at eye level. Many of them could be done by a video camera, it can be captured with other kind of instruments or technologies. But it's also a tool, we think, to look at the city in a humanistic way, having an empathic view on the city. But trying to feel the city on your body is this methodology. And sometimes it's like, can be a bit tough, it can be a bit tiresome, it can be like, I know, for example, you've been walking, having all kinds of hats on the last days, whether you've been a family with children, you've been a handicapped person, trying to also take different roles in the city and play. If I was that kind of person, how would I do this?